Chapter 29, Smoke. Santa's 8 reindeers pulled the sleigh through the sky much faster than the Christmasaurus had pulled William's wheelchair, so they found themselves flying over Williamstown in no time at all. "That's my house right there, the little wonky one," cried William excitedly as he saw the warm glow of the morning sun turn it into snowy rooftops orange. Santa steered the deer down the Williams rooftop and landed with no trouble at all. "Wow, thanks," William called to the 8 wonderful deer. "Right, let's get you inside," Santa said as he backflipped down from the sleigh and picked up William in his wheelchair with one arm. No problem. He skipped over the chimney and placed William in his chair frighteningly close to the edge. "That's tiny. We'll never fit down there," William explained, staring at the teensy hole at the top of the chimney. Santa said nothing, but smiled at William. Suddenly, William had the most bizarre sensation he had had. He was shrinking. Or was everything else growing? Either way, in the blink of an eye, the tiny hole at the top of William's chimney flue was now an enormous hole, big enough for at least 2 Santas to fit down. "I'd better go first," said Santa. Wouldn't want to land on you." And with that, he did a large double twist backflip into the darkness of the chimney. "Follow me!" "Whoa," William thought as he stared down into the dark hole and suddenly wasn't so sure he had the courage to do it. That's when everything started shrinking around him. Or was he growing? Whatever it was, the hole in the chimney was getting smaller. There was no time to think. It was now or never. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath and gave his wheels a big, hard push. He fell down the chimney as fast as a rocket, spinning wildly out of control. He couldn't feel the walls tightening around him as the chimney flue got smaller and smaller. Then he saw something very large and very dark coming towards him, very fast. Whoosh! William's wheels never touched the ground. He was swooped out of the fireplace in some sort of thick, ropey net. "Gotcha!" He heard a voice cackle as something awful and stinky stuck to his nostrils. Pipe smoke. It was the hunter. He was there in William's house. They jumped right into a trap. William twisted and punched his fist through the holes of the net as the hunter hoisted him into the air and hung him in the middle of the room from the ceiling fan. "I knew it. I told you, Growler. I told you they'd come back. What did I say? I said, there's no way they'll keep that little wheelchair boy up there in the North Pole. They'll bring him home, and when they do, we'll be waiting. That's what I said, and I was right." The hunter boasted in his wickedly posh voice, with thick, smelly smoke pouring from his nostrils like a dragon as he cackled. William wriggled as hard as he could, but the ropes and the net held him tight in his chair, dangling from the ceiling fan. He stopped fighting for a moment and swung helplessly to take a glance around his living room. As the room spun, he caught a glimpse of an awfully terrible, horrid sight. Santa was lying in a large heap on the floor below him, with his hands tied tightly behind his back so he couldn't move. "Santa!" cried William. "Silence, boy, or your daddy will be done for," spat the hunter, standing on one foot triumphantly on Santa's back, his sniper rifle raised and aimed, ready to fire at any moment. William looked to where he was pointing and saw the most awful thing he'd seen yet. His dad was tied with thick ropes in the corner of a room, staring back at William through cracked glasses with wide, terrified eyes. Growler was pacing back and forth menacingly, baring his teeth whenever Mr. Trundle tried to speak. William instinctively lashed out again, punching through the holes in the net, trying to reach the horrid hunter. "Now listen to me, you stupid, puny little child. I'm going to speak slowly so you can undersized brain can understand me, as I'm going to go and say it once." The hunter looked at William directly in the eye, and William saw how wretchedly evil the man truly was. There was no chance he was going to return to Nice List. "Where is the flying dinosaur?" he whispered, in the most terrifying whisper William had ever heard. "Don't tell him, William," Santa mumbled, struggling to get his words out as he was lying face down with his mouth full of beard. "Shut it, fat pants. I'll deal with you later," barked the hunter. "Leave him alone," screamed William. Everything fell silent as he swung himself round that he was facing the hunter. William had had enough. You're just an evil, horrid, nasty, sick, twisted man, and that's why you'll never find the Christmasaurus. Tears were streaming down William's face and dripping off his chin. He was in the safest, most magical place in the world now, and you'll never find him. You'll never get back there. William, don't say any more, Santa called. But William couldn't hear his muffled plea. He was crying and shouting in the most emotion that he just couldn't help the next thing he was coming out of his mouth. You'll never find him because you're rotten, stinking, trophy-hunting killer, William screamed, and they'll never give you a cosmos-converting candy cane. It was at that very moment that he pointed to his fist at the hunter, and a small piece of his own magical candy cane that had been secretly hidden flew out of his sleeve and hurtled through the air. It shimmered and sparkled magic as it spun in front of the hunter's evil black eyes before landing with a delicate clink at his feet. The hunter let out the most wicked, triumphant laugh, blowing stinky smoke from his pipe around the room, and he swiped up the delicious-looking piece of magic candy on the floor. I have one now. The flying dinosaur's head is practically mine. Mine, all mine, he cackled and puffed and cackled as he danced around the room like a maniac, firing victory shots at his rifle into the Trundle's living room ceiling while waving the piece of magical red and white candy cane around like he had won a golden ticket. He had the way to the North Pole. Nothing could stop him now. Then all of a sudden the hunter heard a sound that made his heart stop. It came from out in the street. Roar! It was the unmistakable roar of a dinosaur. The Christmasaurus was here.